So I can unmute this audio, but when I do that, I muted right there. So now can people hear me? I have a suspicion they can. Yes, but now the lip syncing's off. See, I gotta fix this. I gotta figure this out. I don't understand. It's such confusing technology. So I apologize if the sync isn't on. Not much I can do about that at this point. Last time it worked fine, and I didn't have this issue. This time it's not. So anyway, thanks for all the people who helped us out. Now Chris is saying no again. There. Okay, cool. Gonna put on my calm down hat. Live streaming can be extremely anxiety driving. I'll tell you that. It's a fun thing. So I apologize for the beginning. If you remember, last week, we started talking about creating a project from the ground up. How do you create a mobile app? How do you create any kind of a thing? And we ended up using design thinking more than just straight up design. But design thinking is design, right? We concepted feature sets, and we ended up thinking of what could we create that could be relevant as a mobile application, right? And the thought was, well, what could you create a social justice product that was similar to TikTok, something that would actually have people get involved, right? So say you have a cause you really care about. Maybe it's Black Lives Matter. Maybe it's the National Riflemen's Association. Maybe it is right to life, right to work, whatever it may be. And you want to get the word out. But you've recognized that the youth of America just don't tend to come out as much as the older generations do. So you think, well, is there a way we could create some sort of a product that would help get out the vote or raise social awareness some? And so we said, well, let's create a mobile app that does that. Really, it is nothing but a mechanism we want to use to allow us to create some cool user interface stuff. But it's as good of an idea as any, right? Trust me, I've heard thousands of ideas at this point, and it's just as good as any other idea I've ever heard. I came up with a terrible name. Came up with the name Unum, which I don't even want to say. It hurts my mouth to even say Unum. Unum. It's a terrible word. So I came up with a slightly better name that's still not better. But as we discussed last time, naming sort of happens throughout the whole product. And as you do trademark searches, as you try to find domains and URLs and space on the app stores, names can tend to change because of that. So, right, we will use this name as a temporary name and we'll grow on from there. So today we'll be actually delving into some of the design work of things, and we'll probably be creating features as we're doing that as well. We do have some people in the live chat, so I do want to start off with just asking if anybody has a product or a project or something that they are interested in working on today, or starting off with, before I delve into this mobile application that we've been building together. I'm also sharing on Facebook because, hey, even though audio is not syncing, at least audio is there, right? Watch this. This is a trick. It's what filmmakers do. Or actually, they use a clapper. But the reason you use a clapper is because you look for that spike in the sound, and then you can go and line up the sound spike with where that clap happened, and then all your audio syncs up. So that way, if I want to go back and change things, or if I want to do something with this video to where it's not just the live stream version of it, that's good. I can now do that. I would really try to figure out why this isn't working. If anybody knows anything about OBS and AirMeet, which you probably don't know about the two of them together, but if you do know anything to maybe help me figure out how in the world do I get the audio that comes from OBS to be the audio that is being used by AirMeet instead of having to use the camera microphone. In fact, I'm going to try one more thing. So if I'm going to ask my folks who are helping out here if you can just check out. I'm going to try to switch this audio source real quick to one more thing here, because I have an idea. Up and just be done with it, because you're going to be looking at my face most of the time because I'm about to share my screen, and that's what we're going to be doing anyway. We're going to be going through design stuff, and you can imagine that I'm not out of sync, and maybe one day we'll figure this thing out. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to check to make sure that my Figma file is open. Yep, it is. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. My entire screen. Unless I can share the application window. Oh, yes. Last time I was unable to share just the application window, and that was really frustrating. So I had to share the whole entire screen, which wasn't my favorite thing. This time I actually get to share the application window. Oh, hey, look at that. Jose has a product. All right. Well, that's even more fun. So Jose, if you want to, I can bring you up to the stage and you can chat with me there about it in person. Or if you'd rather just talk to me through the chat, I'm happy to help you out there. I think it'll be more fun if you're able to be on screen. So there you are. What do you think, Jose? And so while we're waiting on Jose to answer, you can see here that I have come up with a different name for a product. I was thinking of populism, populace, that type of stuff. Yes, Jose, this is being recorded and this is being published both live on YouTube, AirMeet, and Facebook. So unfortunately, if you don't want anybody to know your idea, I can't really help you with that. Just because the benefit of me giving out the stuff. Yes. If it's private, then you can feel free to shoot me an email at howdy@rocksawstudios.com, and I'll reach out to you then. Unfortunately, won't be able to give you a free design hour because part of the benefit of free design hours we're sort of doing it public and live, and happy to help you out with that stuff. But the benefit to us is that we're able to broadcast it to the world, and people can watch in and see how the process works. That said, I'm more than happy to give you some advice, give you some feedback, that type of stuff. If you just want to email me at howdy@rocksawstudios.com, and I'll get back to you with that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, Jose, send me over an email and I will respond back to you. All right, cool. All right. So with that said, we're going to get into our screen share here along the way. All right. Apologies if you can hear my dogs barking. I try to put them up so that they would not be barking, but they don't really seem to care about free design hour. Okay, so if the best laid plans of mice and men, right? So if you remember last time we were working here, we had sort of playing around with feature sets, right? And so we'll go over some of our features real quick that we talked about, because this is where we're going to be starting from. A social app allows you to do video, export out video to the world. It would be really cool if it would actually allow you to also export out Gifs, because that's not something that a lot of applications let you do, especially video-based applications, right? So if you were able to show out Gifs, that type of stuff, that would be really cool. Imagine if you were able to create those little GIFs that we all send on YouTube or in Twitter, that type of stuff, out as well. So you can almost create meme-style GIFs with this application. And that'd be really awesome. I wish more of them would let you do that. Obviously, friends and sharing, block lists, because you don't want to deal with people who are messing with you. Messaging in the app, we think that's important. Obviously, this is a political app. It's for get out the vote, political ads, that type of stuff. One of the things we thought would be really cool is, what if we allowed you to create a 15 or 30-second political commercial for whatever it is that you care about? Again, and whatever that may be, whatever end of the spectrum you're on, left, middle, right, whatever it is, having one place where you could create stuff. Then allow users to maybe do on-screen donations or solicitations for the politicians or the causes they support. Maybe linking to websites like ActBlue or various different committees, that type of thing. And then a quick upload to other networks, because especially at the beginning of an application, we talked about the day one and the day 365 problem. On day one, nobody's in your app, nobody's doing anything, and you don't have a lot of content. On day 365, well, hopefully you have a lot more content. And so what's happening with users on those two different time points in the timeline are very, very different. So you have to make sure your product's still going to work and can get the traction it needs, and it can be shared on day one when you have maybe 15 videos, and maybe day 365 when you have 20,000 videos. One of the ways you do that is by leveraging existing networks, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, things like that. So tying into whichever open APIs are available for you, pushing to those platforms is going to be really helpful, because that's where most people are. And then through that, as people discover, oh, wow, look at this cool thing you're doing, they will come back and go, cool, now I know about this application. One of the things we talked about was using different networks for logging in, and whether or not you could utilize the application before you'd create an account. Creating an account is creating a barrier. It is a gateway. And it can be a way that people bounce from your product. Like, they don't actually want to use your product if they have to sign in and log in. I can't blame them. Your email address is currency. It's you giving somebody something that has a value. The amount of spam that we get every day shows you how valuable that is, because how much junk are we getting? I mean, I try to keep my inbox clean, but inevitably if I miss a day, I open it back up and go, oh man, that's going to be another 45 minutes to clean up this inbox. And then eventually I get to a point to where I just archive all of it and then start from scratch again. It's very frustrating. So, and then we talked about specific features, right? For the product itself. I guess we also talked about who it's for. We're looking at a 16-year to 30-year-old demographic here, not skewing too old, mainly because our goal here is to get out the vote or raise social awareness for people who don't necessarily get out the vote or participate in causes. So how can you do that? Create a product that may be interesting to them. And through that, we came up with sort of our high level, what we call an app map. Draw a frame around this in Figma so I can get rid of these frames. There we go. You can see this here. Oops. So obviously you have a launch page, which we'll be working on today. Onboarding, which is also probably what we're going to be working on today, because that's extremely important. How do you get people into your product? Then you have the main feed of your product. Then you have login and sign up, profile, messaging, content creation, obviously terms of service and privacy. And of course, you will always need some kind of help or support, even if it's just an email address. As I mentioned, last time we called this product Unum, and we've now changed the name to say Pop Tile, which is, again, populism, that type of thing. Again, not a perfect name. Could very much end up changing by the next time we do this, but it's definitely a start right now. Real quick, I'm going to go over to my free design hour. Cool, there we go. Just making sure nobody else is chatting with me. All right, so let's start thinking here. Where do we want to start? Should we start with launch? Should we start with onboarding? Or should we start with the main feed? Well, main feed's going to be more fun. And sometimes you kind of need to know what your product is before you can create onboarding. I mean, onboarding is important. If you don't explain to somebody why they should use your product, they're probably not going to use your product. But how do we explain how to use a product until we know what the product is, right? So let's start with main feed. It's fun, it's interesting, and it's really the meat and the potatoes of the whole product itself. So over here on the left side of Figma, I'm going to create a new page, call it main feed. What's a feed? A feed is pretty much the content that you read in any product. A website, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, its data is being fed in, and you're reading that feed, and you're scrolling through it. So having a very compelling main feed is vital to any application we want to be successful. Okay. Over here in Figma, I can create a frame, hit F, and we are starting off with the iPhone 11 Pro Max as our board here, and we can see that nice frame, main feed. We'll name this main feed 1 on the first screen. Okay. Now, let's talk about, do you just go straight into UI or do you go straight into UX? It seems that you'd want to start off with user experience first, right? You'd want to start off with at least laying down the bones of the product that you have, right? What do you want? Before you get into the design of colors and fonts and margins and drop shadows and that type of stuff, right? Though there's a lot of fun we can do with this application. We have stars, we have stripes. This is actually the discussion of, can you use stars and stripes without alienating a whole set of demographics, right? That's a whole discussion. All right, so main feed. Okay, what's going to be in our main feed? Well, think about what you want to do. First, I want to obviously access my profile. That's going to be the top right, maybe, right? Or we're going to do a bar at the bottom. That's what you have to figure out. Like when you're doing stuff like this, you have to think of what you need. So if we go back here and we grab our features list, login, sign up, profile, messaging, content creation. Okay, so we're in content creation. So we only have a few things here. So we have to decide where's stuff going to live. Well, messaging can live in your profile. Content creation should not live in your profile, right? Because it's content creation. Terms of service of privacy can be live in a menu. So let's just get going. Let's assume we're going to have us a nice little image here. I put in a frame. We're going to call this first feed entry for right now. It could change. This is a placeholder for a final, for like an image or a video or whatever it may be. So because of that, I'm going to fill in this placeholder with a color. And as I think I mentioned before, Rocksauce uses blue and white for a lot of our stuff, like a blueprint, so that it doesn't get too, so you don't get too focused on the actual imagery that we're using. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use the color blue here for a big image. Now that may be too dark of a blue, so I'm going to come over here and just kind of, there we go, lighten it up some. Okay. All right, so that's our image. It's filling up the whole feed. Question is, do we want it to fill up the whole feed? So let's say, just for the sake of discussion, we want to use some margins here. So we want, it's the width is 414. So let me open up my calculator, because I am very much one of those people who is much better at art than I am at mathematics. So we're going to do an 8 pixel margin around everything. So we're going to go 414 minus 16. That's 398. So now our center image here will be 398. What? That was weird. Why is it too big? Oh, because I got the wrong. There we go. You have to make sure you select the right item in your canvas. Otherwise, it doesn't do a very good job to try to resize. So 398. There we go. And then we want this to be 414. There we go. All right. And same thing with the height, right? 896 minus 16. 880. And we'll center that. Now, one of the things that I could have done instead of doing all that mathematics is I could have gone over here to my layout grid, right? Could have created a layout grid, could have made it a column, right? I could have said one column, and I could have centered it. Do I want to center it or I want to stretch it? Let's find out. Margin 8. No, not 80. 8. There we go. See? 8, right? Then I could have added another column. Or, sorry, a row. Same thing, 1. Touch. 8. And see, you can see right here, this dark area, well, that's where our image is. And I could have just drawn inside that box. So that would have worked as well. So either way could have worked. The way I did it was using math, which took a little bit longer. So let's do a border radius. We all like border radiuses, right? So let's do a border radius of 8. So now, if we look at our main image feed here, we have a main entry. It's going to be a photograph or a video of somebody moving around, okay? And just so we know what it is, I'm going to type into here, photo placeholder. I'll just put video right there. White. It's fun when the door is left open while I am in the middle of live streaming. Okay, so video. I'm going to lock this. All right. Okay, so now we have our video background, and if you imagine like a TikTok or like an Instagram, when you come to the feed, there's that video playing automatically for you, right? So now we have some other stuff to figure out. Profile. Well, I want to access my profile and I want to know who I am. One of the ways we can do that is obviously through a little profile widget for the thing, a little photograph of who I am. Now you see over here I've locked this because as I'm interacting with this, I don't want to accidentally keep clicking this. It'll be a big pain for me. So here we go. Now you can choose where you want your profile to go. It could be at the top right, bottom left, type of stuff. Top right usually is where people think to look for profile-based stuff. And if you remember Jacob's Law, most people spend time somewhere else besides your website or in your mobile application. So you want to use the conventions that they have to make things easier for you, right? So I'm going to call this profile photo. Here's where we're going to start getting a little bit into the, how do I say, UX versus UI conversation, because I could also just have a shape up here for that too. Now it's starting to get a little bit shapey, right? And these aren't actually going to be shapes. I think there's probably a plugin on Figma that we can use. It'll find us some social media faces or things like that. So I'm going to come over here to Figma, and I'm going over here to Community, and I'm going to search for faces and see what shows up. Avatars, look at this. User profiles libraries. That sounds fun, right? There's a file, and there's some plugins called UI faces. That's been updated 10 days ago. That sounds good. So I'm going to install this. And if anybody out there has a recommendation for one of these, I know Chris, my creative director, uses some of these as well. If he has any ideas on something like that, on what he uses, that could be cool too. But I'm just going to come up here, select this, come up to my plugins, and I'm going to look for my UI faces. I've never used this plugin before, so we're going to see what happens. Pixels is one of my favorite websites. I think they have some really cool photographs. Unsplash is also good. Ages 18 to 30. Set your demographic. Do female or male. Actually, I don't care. I would like them to be happy. Black, brown. Well, I don't care. Whatever color. Apply avatars. What's going to happen here? I don't know. This is exciting. Oh, there's somebody. So there's a person. That's kind of cool. And that saved me a whole lot of time from having to go out there and search Google for this type of thing. Now, one of the other cool things that I didn't mention, and why I didn't bring this up. If you have a mobile device, which you probably do, there's an app on the App Store called Figma Mirror. And the benefit of something like Figma Mirror is that it will real-time broadcast to your device what it is you're looking at here. And that's really helpful when you are designing mobile interfaces. I can't even express how helpful this is, because it lets you see in real time what something's going to look like. and lets you see, okay, is it actually working visually? Like visually, is this the kind of thing I want to look at? Are the things where they need to be? So you can see here, wow, look at that. It's pretty cool, right? So what I usually suggest is when you're doing a mobile app design, definitely when you're doing a web design, that you take the time to load up Figma Mirror on your iPad or your phone or your, well, iPad or phone is usually the two best because that's where you get it. Doing web design is really cool though on an iPad with Figma Mirror because you can see real time what stuff's going to do. Another cool thing is we've talked a lot about micro interactions and transitions, and you can use animated Gifs in Figma to represent video. Now, the awesome thing is when you use Figma Mirror, well, guess what? That video, that GIF will play in real time. So when you're looking at your preview here, you'll see that GIF moving. Now, one of the other interesting things is that all devices have different border radiuses, right, for their screens. The iPhone has a certain border radius. The Pixel phone that I use has a different border radius. And so we set a border radius here on our feed. Now, when I look at that and I look at it on my device, they don't really work out well because my Pixel is doing such a rounded border that's creating a problem. So what I actually want to do is hit F here, and I want to see if I can, oops, sorry. There's a Pixel 2 XL. That's frustrating. That's annoying. I have a Pixel 4 XL, so I wonder if there's any new devices for that. So I'm going to select that one. Okay. And I'm going to call this main feed 411.823. What happens if I make this 823? Oh. And so there we go. So now one of the interesting things I can do here is like this. Mm-hmm. And I can start to see what it looks like on my actual device. And that can be really helpful because that lets me know, okay, what's it looking like? And if I want to design for a specific device, I can do that. I have that opportunity. So it's something to consider. So if I was wanting to design this for, say, a Pixel 4 XL, what I would do is I would want to make these much, much bigger border radiuses because otherwise it looks bad, right? So I'm going to make this maybe 16. What does it look like? Nope, that's not even that's enough. So let's do 24. Getting better. What if we did something as crazy as 32? Yeah, 32 is getting even better. And we're going to go all the way to 40 and see what that happens with that. 40 was too much, so 32 it is. There we go. So for this Pixel 4 XL, I like that. And I want to set the height here to be scaled because I haven't quite figured out the exact ratio here for my Pixel 4 XL. Almost there. There we go. Cool. So. Now, if you want to have different sizes on the iPhone, if you want different sizes on the Pixel, again, you can make your border radiuses, you can make your colors, you make all your items fit that device, and you can see what it's going to look like real time through Figma Mirror. So what we have here is we have a main profile photo, which we hope will access, will indicate to a user, hey, this is where my profile stuff lives. That's cool. Inside of that, we can put in notifications, all that good stuff. So that's fun. Now, something to think about here. Users don't always know that they can scroll, that they can swipe through stuff, that they can continue on. They don't know that there's content necessarily beneath the other content. So because of that, when you go full screen, it can be confusing to a user. One of the things that we talk about is doing what we call peekaboo content. So if I were to say make this 800, okay. And actually I kind of want to bring this in some more. So what if we did a bigger border radius? Well, we'll leave it like it is for now. And then we did this. We could show the second feed entry. That there's more content beneath it, right? And so now I, as a user, go, okay, I know that there's not just one video. And I know there are multiple videos, right? So I know that I can scroll as I'm looking through. So I know I'm not just stuck with dealing with the one video. Now, again, other ways you could have done that would have been a different visual style. What if instead of you want people to scroll up and down, what if you want them to move left and right? There was an application that Facebook put out called Paper, which I was a huge fan of, and it was a much different way to surf Facebook. And one of the great things that I loved that it did was this concept of almost window panes versus the other way around. Instead of scrolling up and down so much, so here what we'd have is that. Oops, and I want to go 80. There we go. This, it here. And you create a very similar thing. So now instead of going up and down or left and instead of going up and down with my scroll, I could scroll left and right. And I could swipe through videos. So it's kind of cool. Which one's a better user interface? I don't know. That's part of what the user testing paradigm is for, right? We want to find out when we actually get it in front of a user and put it in front of them, we want to say which one of these is working better for you. Because so many things do work on an up and down feed, Jacob's Law would say, well, we should do that. But then there is the Tinder concept, which was literally swipe left and right. And you say, well, maybe if we made it different, that could be a beneficial thing for our product because it does differentiate it from what else is out there. For right now, I'm going to call this main feed 1 dot vertical scroll. Call this one dot horizontal swipe. Now, which one am I going to go with? I think I'm going to choose the horizontal swipe because I think it sounds fun. It just seems like an interesting thing to do. Well, before I do that, though, let's think about some of the ramifications. What is a video? Well, phones, they're phone screen size video, but most video is going to be what? 1920 by 1080, or roughly. That's going to be the aspect ratio at the bare minimum that it's going to be a 16:9 aspect ratio as we talk about in the film industry. And that is what a lot of phones were once they got a little bit taller, right? When you got out of the iPhone 1, iPhone 2, 3 range, phones became 16:9. It was really exciting. Then as phones got bigger, we got even longer, so now we have black on the left and right of the screen. So if we take our 16:9 frame, we say we want to paste it into here, and I'm going to actually lock our entry. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an auto layout for these. I'm going to call this feed. Same thing here. Add auto layout. Feed. Second feed entry. Cool. Awesome. Okay. Because what I want to do is easily lock these so I can paste stuff without having to worry about it going into there. All right. So I'm going to cut this just to see what it looks like. So here is a standard 16:9 video. And that means that actually, let's do this. Actually, what I do want to do is I actually want to go inside. That could be helpful. So unlock this. I'm going to paste this into here. So if we imagine that this video went top to bottom, full screen, how much should we be showing off? Now at this point, we may actually need to go out and get a vertical video or something that's representative of a vertical video. Because what I'm trying to do here, explain what's happening. So either way, we're going to be cropping the video. Because the phone itself is a different aspect ratio than a video, 16:9, we run into the issue to where either the left and right is going to be cut off or the top and bottom are going to be cut off. And the question is, if I'm trying to create a commercial, what's going to be better for me? Is it going to be more important that I have that more of a vertical pane, or am I going to want to have more of this kind of a view? While conceptually, I'm a bigger fan of the swipe left and right interface style because I think it's cool and interesting. It may actually not work so well when you talk about the content that we're going to be using. And content is king. Content should be what's driving our product. So I'm going to come over here real quick to Chrome. And what I want to do is I want to go to say to website. I'm going to go to Pixels because we talked about that earlier. Go to pixels.com, pexels.com. And I want to find something I think can represent a video, right? Now, again, this is not UI. We're not necessarily doing user interface design here. We're still doing UX because this is UX. You have to factor into what are people going to want to do with these videos, and are they going to be more interested in cropping them which way? Do we want to try to remain as true as we can to the aspect ratio? You know, now that I'm looking at it, I do think that showing more of the video left to right by having a vertical scroll is going to be better because it's going to allow more of the actual video to be seen versus if you had it be taller, but you swipe left to right, where you have to cut it, make it a more narrow video. So one of the things I can do here on Pixels is I can actually find video, but unfortunately it's not going to be a GIF, and I'm not going to take the time to make it a GIF, but you can. And that's a good place if you want to try stuff out like that, if you want to try things out with Figma and see things working in real time. You can go to Pixels, say get a cool video, make it a GIF, and then try it out in your actual application. So I'm going to say person looking at camera. A good thing. Search for. And what I want to try to do is you can go to orientation and I can choose vertical here on Pixels. And let me actually share that screen so it's not just. I'm going to stop sharing that screen and I'm going to switch over to application window, Pixels. There we go. There we go. All right. So now I can look through this, and I'm not trying to find a perfect video, a photo, because that would be very difficult. Well, one of the things you can do, though, now that I think about it, is because these are vertical, but they're not 16:9. And the camera is going to do 16:9. So I'm going to go here to videos, right? And here you can actually see 16:9. I'm going to shrink up my screen here a little bit. There we go. As you can see, yeah, I have this. That's perfect, right? Look at that. Wow. That could be dead on for what we're trying to do here. So I can just download that, which is cool. So if I want to use it. But for the sake of our product, I'm just going to take a quick screenshot of that because it's in the ratio that I want it to be in. There we go. Cool. Whoa, look at that. That's crazy. Everything froze up. Wow. Stop sharing my screen. The genie effect caused the computer to crash. It's crazy. Or not crash, but slow down. So now I'm going to go back here to Figma. And I'm going to Command K to bring in I'll bring in this. There we go. Drop that in. Okay, so now we have what could be our video. So this is going to work out much better. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, my first feed in video, and I'm going to make it, let's say I went to the top and bottom of my screen. What am I going to lose? Okay. Now, it looks neat. I do kind of like the way the vertical looks. And again, you can define that you want videos to be that way. You can say, hey, we want to try a whole new mechanism here. We think they're really cool, long. Videos are neat. They do look cool on the device itself, right? You can see here. Looks really cool. I like the way it looks. But maybe people don't want to have to cut the left and right of their videos off. So we'll also take that same photograph and we'll put it into our other feed. And we'll see how much of it we're cutting off there. Now, as you can see, we're cutting off way less image. There just is. I mean, you're getting a much truer sense of the photograph, or of the video that you're doing. And so that's something to consider. Which one do I want to do? I don't know. I really don't know the answer. For the visual sake and the visual interest, I really do like the swipey version. It's tall and it looks kind of cool and elegant and it's different than what I've seen before. But does that make it better? I don't know. This would be the point in which I would go to users and see what they like more. I want to know what's appealing to you. Is this a problem in actuality or is this just a problem conceptually? If you feel really strongly about that type of thing, you can. Oops, lost my Figma. There we go. If you feel strongly one way or the other, like I do right now, you could just go to users and say which one's going to be better. And I'm not really certain right now. So for today, for the rest of this session, which isn't much longer, I'm just going to keep playing with the idea of the tall vertical one because it's fun. But that doesn't mean that's what we're going to do. Now, I think in Figma, I can come here, take this image. I believe I can take the saturation down, right? And I can modify my thing here to be what? Multiply? Is that what I want? No. Darken? No. Is it hue? Look, I know sometimes you may be going like, I don't know what all these things are. I don't either sometimes. There we go. Luminosity is fine for me. Just for now, it's fine for me because it does what I want it to do. And then I'm going to do it. Just because I don't want the actual image itself to play too big into it. And I'm going to bring my video label higher here just so it's very clear what's there. Cool. I'm going to do a similar thing here. I'm going to fill. I'm going to take my saturation down. I'm going to come here to luminosity. Luminosity. Take this. Go. Bring it up. There we go. There we go. Cool. All right, so there we have a video and we have an image up top. Now, this is how we want to access a lot of our profile stuff. So if we go back to our sections, we have messaging, login, sign up, terms of service, privacy, that type of thing. But this isn't my video. This is somebody else's video. So, what information do we need to know about that video? Well, I need to know the username. And what else? What else do people tend to want on videos? Well, it's hearts and likes, right? Oops, let me do this. Go. And now I'm going to group these together. Call this video 1. Same thing here. Again, for right now, I am working with this horizontal with this one because I like the way it looks. First video feed entry, video 1. There we go. And now I'm going to frame this again and call this video. And there we go. And I can put my username stuff in here. So, information that's important. Username. Okay. Well, you know how many likes they have. Are we going to allow people to reshare stuff? Instagram doesn't really allow you to do that, right? One of the things that Instagram does is that I can see feeds and I can send to my friends, my acquaintances. I can send out to Facebook or other social media, but I cannot share it to my own feed like it's my content. Twitter is the exact opposite. Facebook is the exact opposite. So which one's better? Which one's going to work better? What would be the benefit of doing it? Well, because it's social awareness and people have different opinions on things, I think that giving people the ability to share on their own feed is vital. Because then what happens is you create two different types of content, two different types of users. You have your users who are content providers, which are great. You need content providers. But then you have users who are just content sharers, right? Their job is just to share content and make things popular. And having both of those ecosystems on a product are really beneficial. So we're going to do that. We're going to allow for sharing. How many times has something been retweeted, reshared, repop-tiled, whatever it is? And now, interesting. Now the name, even though it was just a play off of populace and populism, pop-tile, like poptle, it does actually start to play maybe a little bit into the interface, like pop-tile, like the little pops. And you can maybe call them pops, so this starts to become something you can do, like create a new pop, that type of thing. So username, likes, shares, what else? Maybe how many times it's been seen? Does that matter? I don't know. We're going to find out. So, and this is not what we'll be back on the actual interface, but right now we're just trying to figure out like what are the big elements that we'd want to have. Oh, if we get to the username, now it comes into question. When you start to add stuff to an interface, you start to clutter up the interface. And the more cluttered the interface is, the more difficult it is to interact with and enjoy the content that's being given to you. You could allow a user to start following somebody at this stage, right? Because I want to say, I want to follow you. You're my friend. I like what you're showing. I want to see your stuff in my feed more often. You could allow that here. Or you could make them have to go to the actual user profile page to find that out. Huh? Which one's better? Is there an easy way that we can allow following without having to make you go to another page? Because if you can do that without forcing someone to go to a different feed, that's great. Or to a whole different page. But I don't know if there is, because you could also clutter up the interface, because at the end of the day, what our job is here is to show this content and make this content visible for a user. So I will put follow on here just because it's good to have, but we may not put it on this page. And I think that's probably it. I mean, you don't want too much information. I think these are the bare minimums, like number of times somebody's seen it, number of times somebody shared it, how many people have actually liked it, what that person's username is, and follow them, right? You put those kind of controls here. So that's on the screen. And again, these aren't being designed up yet. These are just going to be here. And we're going to figure out where these are going to live, because I don't know. On TikTok, they sort of live like down right here-ish, maybe get in the way of the video, but that's something to think about. So what's sort of the last thing we have? It's our main corporate interface here. Oh, we may end up having notification badges here. We could have a little icon here, so maybe a bell. And this is obviously not a bell, but maybe you have a little bell or something like that. See, I'm already using different colors, and I don't want to use different colors. Q. A little bell or something like that that indicates, hey, you've got messages, right? That type of thing. There's also the opportunity to have a menu to get to terms of service, to get to member agreements, to get to help, that type of thing. Now, again, that could be located under the profile, or we could put it somewhere else. We haven't decided that yet. But I think the big thing that we want everyone to do is to create content, right? We want people to share, to pass along content into our system so that our system is popular. Now, another little widget here. In the world of Android, oops, I did not want to be there. I want to be there. There we go. In the world of Android and Google applications, there's a concept called a fab. It's like an action button. It's a floating action button. That's what it means. And it lives here at the bottom right. If you've ever used Gmail on your phone, you may have seen it, that type of stuff. And what it would do is it would have essentially just do a big old plus sign in it. There we go. Center that inside that. Let's go ahead and outline stroke so it's an object. And then it makes it more easy for me to center the stuff inside itself. There we go. And then I will frame that. Make that its own frame selection. I'll call this the action button. Okay. So there's this concept that we have on Android to where it's, a little button, you press it and it lets you create stuff. That doesn't necessarily work so well on iOS. People don't necessarily know what it means. They don't necessarily like it. There are other options you can have here. You could, instead of putting it at the bottom right, you could put it at the bottom left so that it... How far from the edges are we here? It needs to be equidistant. We are... What's that not? I can't remember. We're 16, so that's 2. So here, 1, 2, 1, 2. There we go. So you could have this little nice button down here at the bottom left for one thing, right? If you look at our device here, you have your button at the bottom left. Now the problem is that in a good place, because if I have to reach my finger over, am I constantly trying to jockey stuff? And that's kind of an issue. I think I talked about it last time, and I lamented that Instagram had changed how you add new content to their system. It had previously been a little button at the center in the middle, and you tapped it, and you create new content. Now you have to go press a different button entirely, which then pulls up a different screen, which then lets me decide what kind of content I want to provide. I'm not a big fan of the new interface at all for Instagram when it comes to that. So what I want to do is just to make it simple, put that fab whatever it may be, whatever size it may be, whatever it's going to do, in the center of our screen like this. So the way it's easily accessible to anyone who's left or right-handed. I'm not assuming one or the other, and it's always just sitting down at the bottom, ready for them. So the fact that even in Figma, I'll say fixed position when scrolling. So take this, put it on both. See if it works. Cool. I'm going to take this, because I've got this stuff here. I'm going to call this I'm going to frame this selection real quick. Call this poster details, because it's poster details. Whoever posted this video, it's the details for their video. And real quick here. Don't know why I can't scroll. There we go. I'm going to frame this selection one more time. Call this video 1 again. I'm inside of video 1, and I'm just going to call this video. I'm going to paste this in there, so it's here as well. Cool. So now we have that in both places. We have, in each design that we're considering, we have our information that we think we want to go onto the video. And then on the other side, we have our little fab at the bottom that will help us grow content. And that's pretty cool. I like this. This is the beginning of an interface and a start. This is, again, the very beginning. This is a UX. None of this is the final UI. But as you can see here, we're starting to grapple with some of these questions. UX bumped into what's a cool interface versus what's going to be the best thing for a user when it comes to video formatting. What content's going to live on the screen? How much data do you want to be taking up? Because one of the other things that we could do here that, somebody may be thinking, why didn't you mention this, Q, is instead of having this fab at the bottom, you could go with a more standard iOS or mobile application style scroll bar, right? So I could maybe shrink this down. Scale it just because I want to do it fast. So scale this down to about 64. 64 is fine. Put it down here. Consider that little bar that the iPhone now has at the bottom. And we will frame here. Bottom of the screen. Put our action button there. We'll make the position of that too, actually. And fill it with white. And then we'll make it transparent so we can see what's beneath it, right? Because we have other options that we talked about, right? So you have other icons that we may want to do. We have notifications. Our user profile does not have to live up at the top right of the screen, actually. Our user profile could live down here. I could literally take this, make it 64. Wow. Let's just do it this way just to make sure. 64. Oh, are you kidding me with that? Come on, man. Freaking. Maybe we want our profile button to live down here instead, right? Here we go. So now what actually may be happening is instead of having the fab style thing with a button up here for profile that opens up another menu, we may have a bar at the bottom similar to what Instagram and other applications have. And which one's going to be right? Again, it just depends. It depends on what people want to access quickly and fast and how often they're going to want to get to it. What are people going to be doing the most times? What are people going to be doing a lot? And how important is discoverability to what you have? Instagram has a lot of different cool features. And so they have those additional sections at the bottom because they want you to explore those areas. Facebook's the same way, right? Other applications, they don't care so much about that. They don't want you to explore deeper. They don't want you to find stuff. But we may. What if one of the things we want to have is hashtags and trends and things like that? Well, then we may want this type of thing because we want you to quickly get to what's explorability. So that's part of what we're going to be discussing next time, because we have to go a little bit further with this. We have to think about, well, wait, now that we're actually in our application, how are people going to use this? How are they going to be discovering content? What are they going to find? And what would we want to have in our app to make that more user-friendly? Tags are a big deal. So we may need to think about explore, search, tags. And these are areas that we didn't talk about. If you go back to last week's video, one of the things I mentioned is that we're going to come up with a features list at the beginning. And we're going to try to get as far as we can. But inevitably, there's going to be stuff we're not thinking about. Well, here we go. We didn't think about search at all. Like, didn't even come up in our heads. But obviously, you're going to want to search, right? You're not going to want to be forced to look at only the users that the system feeds you. How lame would that be? Again, there may be certain causes you care about. And if the goal of this is a social justice or a social awareness application to get out the vote or raise awareness to let you create cool little campaign commercial types things, maybe I want to find what other people have done, right? Along the lines of whatever I care about. So search is going to become important. So a scaled down version of the interface is very much this, where we don't have as much stuff. Now, does that mean that we can't find ways to work those controls to get to search and to get to explore or whatever else it is into the fab or other places like that? No, it doesn't. It just means we're going to try to find what's going to work better. So part of what we'll be doing next time is the great activity of seeing what other people are doing, researching a little bit, saying, okay, well, what are people doing in their feeds? How are people giving quick access to things? Having some of that detail, some of that data. I'll probably go ahead and bring some of that stuff together so we can look at some other popular interfaces to say, well, this is what Facebook's doing, this is what Twitter's doing, this is what Instagram's doing, and say, okay, who do we want to follow? Who do we want to look at and say, they're doing a great job, or do we want to combine things together and maybe find our own way to get things done? But again, this is the reality of building a product. You know, nobody knows right off the top of their head what the right answer is going to be. None of us know exactly what the final design will be. It is very much experimentation. When we do design work for customers and we build products, one of the big things that's pretty vital is what we call playtime. And you've got to have time to play so you can get things wrong, right? I mean, you saw that happen real time today. You saw me go, well, we could do this sort of a tall, long feed. That's really cool. This microphone's in a terrible place. I just keep bumping into it. So I'm going to have to move it back or something like that so that my hands don't hit it so much. So hopefully that works okay. You need to have time to play. You got to have time to try things out and say, okay, that was a thought experiment. I thought this would work really well, but it just doesn't. Or that looks cool. Visually, that's amazing, but it doesn't actually solve the needs of what the product should be. So is there a way we can merge these concepts together? And that takes playtime. That takes the time to go down a road that you know is going to be thrown away that you'll never use. And that's why I've expressed in the past how important it is to have a sandbox in your Figma file or in your design file, whatever you're doing, whether it's Sketch or it's InVision, whatever it is, to have a whole page which is nothing but design ideas that you tried, that you chose not to move forward with. Because it may not be right for this app, but it could be right for another product. Or it may be a matter of once you actually roll it out, you get feedback from an audience, and you think, well, maybe we should go back to something we already did try, because that could be better as well, right? Okay. So with that said, feel free to check us out on Twitter, Rocksauce, Instagram, all the different cool social media. If you'd like to work with us, if you'd like to have us approach you and work on your product here through Free Design Hour, very happy to do that. It does have to be public, unfortunately, just because, again, this is a live broadcast and I can't not show the work that I'm doing. That's not fun for anybody who's watching. So we have to be able to show the design work because that's the fun. Similar to what we did at the very, very beginning of Free Design Hour where we worked with some clients. So with that said, if you have any projects you'd like us to work with, you have some ideas, you want some help, have us help you build a really cool product, you can go to rocksaucestudios.com, reach out to us. You can send us an email at howdy@rocksaucestudios.com. We'll get back to you. With that, my name is Q Manning. It's been Free Design Hour. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry that the audio is not in sync. Adios.